Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Got a loaded show for you guys today. The Vikings are playing Saturday. Football is back. We know football's been back. The Bears played in the Hall of Fame game, but football's back for Minnesotans. I'm going to be there at the game. I know you guys are going to be there at the game. We're going to talk about what we're looking forward to in the game. You guys let us know what you think too on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, of what you are most looking forward to with football being back in Minnesota. But also in the Hanging Ron Johnson segment, got Geoff Schwartz joining us, former NFL offensive lineman. Got to talk about that Brinks truck that backed up in Eagan and hooked up Christian Darrisaw. We'll see what he thinks about that coming up next on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson. Again, this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're on Roku, Amazon, whatever device you're using, if you're on your phone and you're just listening to a podcast, thanks for listening. But for those watching on YouTube, you can see what I'm wearing. That means, yep, football's back. Yep, we got the Vikings fan line after game, so hopefully you guys tune into that post-game, post-cast. We got the pregame show with every Ben Lieber, Pete Bursage. We got everybody, people. Everybody's back this season, and there's going to be a new-look Vikings defense. Probably not Saturday, but eventually. So we're going to talk about all that and much more coming up on the Ron Johnson Show. Also, like I said, in the Hanging Ron Johnson segment, we got Geoff Schwartz, former NFL offensive lineman, played for my Detroit Lions. So we'll talk to him a little bit about that, how that was being in purgatory with the Lions and now seeing their success. Does he wish he played for Dan Campbell? NFC North, is it one of the best? Would he have gone to Paris if his wife made the Olympics? We know that happened in the NFC North as well. And then also we got the Daily 3 coming up. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each, and we'll break down all the hot topics, people. And it's a long week, but thanks for making Ron Johnson Show one of your first listens. But make sure you check out the football party, the basketball party, because NBA basketball is still going. Yeah, they're over in Paris. And also, you got to check out the Friday Roundtable, because this Friday is going to be really juicy because football's back. But I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Just make every moment more as the playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. And they're coming back, though, but it's still summer. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all the customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked on. Yes, that's LOCKEDON. That's FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. And trust me, man, those boosts and there's bonuses, you might as well just take some easy bets. Like, why wouldn't you bet on the USA team? Why wouldn't you bet on the Twins to beat the White Sox? I mean, there's some easy ones out there. Make sure you guys check that out on FanDuel. But as I bring my producer to the show, Sam Ekstrom, Sam, as I mentioned, for those watching on YouTube, I'm wearing my Vikings Radio Network polo from Unreal. And that means football is officially back, Sam. I just got the emails. I just got all the texts. I got the schedule times. Be at the stadium by noon. It's a 3 o'clock game, though, people. So, yes, it is a long day on a Saturday, but it is well worth it. So we have to be at the stadium at noon. Probably, I know we're shooting some promo stuff. We're going to be on the field doing some stuff as players walk in. But then also, Sam, you know, first game of the year, it's always we got to check to make sure your credentials are ready. We got to check to make sure these people are cleared to be here. We got to go through the new people that don't understand the process of what a game day is going to look like. For a lot of the younger guys, like Blake Cashman, I mean, he grew up in Minnesota, but Blake Cashman, this is going to be his first time officially kind of walking in, putting on the uniform, going out for warmups. He's probably not playing as much, but we don't know. We don't know what Kevin O'Connell's going to do. There's only 3 preseason games. We do know they have a joint practice coming up, so I don't know if that's the ramp-up week or if this is the week where Kevin O'Connell's like, look, we weren't good enough last year to really just rest guys. We got to see what we got in Sam Darnold. We got to see what we got in J.J. McCarthy. So who knows what the Vikings are going to do in this first game. But Sam, football is back. What are you looking forward to with this first preseason game?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be quarterback position number one, and we still don't know officially how it's going to be handled. Is J.J. McCarthy going to play most of the game? Are we going to see Sam Darnold at all? Do they want to get him some live reps? Do they get Nick Mullins and Jaren Hall anything? That's going to be super intriguing how they break it all down. Seems to me, feels to me like J.J. McCarthy needs to have a lot of reps in this game and should be getting at least a half of football. And then will Kevin O'Connell keep it really vanilla as he has the previous 2 years with Kirk Cousins, or will it be a more realistic game-like offense that he's trying to run to get J.J. McCarthy those valuable reps? Kirk Cousins didn't need the game-like version in the preseason because he's Kirk Cousins. He's a veteran. J.J. McCarthy might benefit from having a little more realistic feel to the offense. So I'm curious how that's going to work. And then, Ron, you're a receiver. I'm always watching the receivers. I'm always watching who's making plays because there's so many openings, I think, in this receiver room. We don't really know who wide receiver 3 is, 4, 5, 6. I want to see who stands out there, and that's going to be important on the quarterback to get them the ball, give them a chance to make some plays.
Yeah, and so here's the thing too, though. The unofficial depth chart, like the Vikings, you have to, I don't know if you saw that message come out today. The Vikings had to release their first unofficial depth chart because it's, you have to do it by NFL standards because they have to build those cards for us when we're in the press box and everybody's walking into the stadium. And so everybody's going to grab the card. I'll grab mine first day of the week. First when we get in there and check it out. But if you look at the first depth chart, Sam, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I feel like
right now, it just brought it up.
I feel like it's a little bit of a hide the potato, maybe a little bit, or hide the, hide the play. Because like to me, you got Bobby McCain way back there. Fabian Moreau is right behind Byron Murphy Jr. But I'm wondering, like, what does all this mean? Because we know Lewis Seen being out probably isn't going to be in front of anybody. And I'm trying to click the different one because I'm clicking the one on the Vikings website. But is that the one?
The Vikings website would be that'd be the official, unofficial one that they just updated. I'm looking at it now.
Got it. So I'm making sure that's right because I clicked the Vikings website, but then also clicked their little tweet message because there's a story. So here's the story. It says 44 players listed as they appear on the unofficial. So he only did the 44 players for offense, and then he did, I forgot what the defense, how many they have, but 43 on defense. So they're down to 87 on this depth chart. Of course, you can carry 90, but we know there's some injuries, so on and so forth. So you got Sam Darnold, the starter. You got J.J. McCarthy or Nick Mullins. It's 2. Any surprises there? Jaren Hall 3? Because in my mind, I guess they're saying it could be Nick Mullins or J.J. McCarthy, but it just seems like Jaren Hall is either going practice squad or out the door.
They just don't want to make a decision here because they don't want to put Mullins third and make it look like J.J. McCarthy has sort of passed the veteran because that's a bad look for Mullins. But then if they put their first round pick third, it's a bad look either way. So they have to do this. I think that's a good PR move. Keep them both at 2.
CJ Ham at fullback. Any surprises there?
Boy, I thought they were going to convert Myles Gaskin to a fullback and put him number 1.
That could happen. He could be the backup fullback. But you got Ty Chandler 2, Aaron Jones 1. I think we all knew that was going to happen. The one I'm considering and thinking about, Myles Gaskin or Dwayne McBride. Do you think they pass Kane, or do you think this new kickoff rule has rebirthed Kane Nwanwu?
Interesting. And do they keep more than 3 running backs is the question. I don't think they're obviously not all going to make it.
Correct.
I think, if anyone's going to pass Kane, I think it'd be Dwayne McBride just because they drafted him. He's young. He's got upside. He had a good college career. But, I feel like Kane is kind of locked in there, number 3.
And those new kickoff rules, it gives a guy like Kane with speed. He's not shifty. And that's why I wonder, do you want a guy like Powell back there? Or do you want a guy like Kane with, like, the old kickoff was straight line speed. I want you to get through there and go. The new kickoff rules, could you imagine like a Devin Hester, a Deion Sanders? Even you could put Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson back there with the new rules. You got to have somebody shifty that can move sideline to sideline and then get vertical versus like Kane is more straight line. I don't see him as a shifty guy. Wide receivers, Justin Jordan, and we know that's happening. Jalen Naylor and Brandon Powell. I think we kind of figured that. And then Tristan Jackson, Deshaun just Sean Jones and Trent Sherfield Sr. So Lucky Jackson, Ty James, Thayer Thomas, and Malik Knowles right now are on the outs. I don't see any surprises there. Tight ends, same, no surprises there. Tackles, no surprises there. Interior offensive linemen. So Blake Brandel, Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram.
Yeah.
Dalton Reisner is a backup. Surprised?
I guess I'm not surprised based on how they've talked about it. They've kind of indicated that Brandel is the leader there, but I still think that Reisner has a chance to upend either Brandel or Ingram. Like, I think Ingram could get knocked
Reisner
out.
was a left guard. Now he's listed as a right guard behind Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're right. Maybe there is an upseating of an Ingram there based off play during the preseason. Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel on the defense, nothing there. Pat Jones a second, Dallas Turner, we figured that. I was gonna say, are you surprised they put Dallas Turner up as a right away as a backup, or that was probably a given being how high they drafted him?
Yeah, it's just not a super deep edge group, right? So all he had to do was beat out like a UDFA and Jihad Ward, kind of a journeyman, Andre Carter. Like, there wasn't a lot to beat there, so I think that makes sense.
Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace Jr., Kamu Grenier,
Grugier. I believe it's Grugier. Yeah.
Is it Grugier? Grugier Hill. And then Brian Asamoah. Brian Asamoah is the one that's been perplexed to me. I thought we'd see more out of him at this point, and it feels like he keeps getting further and further back on the depth chart. And so I wonder what that's going to look like. Shaq Griffin, Byron. Is Shaq Griffin back, though, or is he still injured?
Good question. I was a little out of pocket over the weekend. We'll have to look this one up. They assured us that it was not a long-term thing. So knock on wood, but I'll have to look that up.
So Shaq Griffin, Byron Murphy Jr., and then Fabian Monroe jumps into the backup role right away of Caleb Evans. A shock that Fabian Monroe jumped in there over Andrew Booth, we knew AJ Green, Jacoby Francis, Jalen Williams, Duke Shelley. I hope Duke Shelley moves up. But Najee Thompson and Dwight McGlothern are at the end. But I think Najee Thompson we know is a gunner. Any surprise there, though, with Fabian Monroe jumping right into that backup spot?
Not really. They were they had so little depth that I think that was certainly the play to bring in a backup caliber corner who can play on the outside. Now you've got McCain who can play on the inside, also play a little bit of safety. So you've covered your bases now, and I'm with you. Get Duke Shelley up there. He can't be with the fours. Let's go. Make him at minimum a 3.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, preseason. We got preseason games. I know those guys are getting a ton of play. Here's the one that threw me off. Bobby McCain is last in the safeties. Do you think that he should at least be in front of? Because Jay Ward and him actually were kind of splitting time in that nickel safety spot, which was behind Montella. So technically, they have to go safeties of Harrison Smith, Bynum, and then back of Josh Montella. But we know that Josh Montella is quote unquote is a starter, the way they kind of come out in base. So it goes Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, and then they had Theo Jackson, Jay Ward, and Bobby McClain. And I'm guessing because Lewis Seaton's hurt or, was in practice. But do you find it weird that Bobby McClain is quote unquote last? Because they put the comma, I forgot what that one's called, the comma with the dot on top. I always forget those things.
Comma, where's that one?
It's a comma with the dot on top. What's that called? I forgot. It's not, it's a
the semicolon.
Semicolon. So the semicolon means like this is the end of that. We're starting a whole new topic because Jay Ward and Lewis Sean are in one, then we're starting a whole new topic. Bobby McClain, you're last. I'm surprised Bobby McClain is last and not in front of Lewis Sean, but I don't know what are your thoughts on that. Do you think that's just arbitrary because he just came in and they're trying to like give the guys who've been here like a fair shake in the first unofficial depth chart?
Yeah, I mean, probably a little bit of that, Ron, but also they could have put him right underneath Jay Ward and just had him be a third string like they did a lot of other places too. And I'm just surprised that they brought in a safety. Like when they signed McCain, I thought, okay, that's a slot corner. He can play the inside, but when talking about him as a safety, they have so much safety depth that that doesn't make as much sense to me. So I still think that he might be just a versatile slot option, but I guess we'll find out.
And so that's the press release, the way they did it. But if you go on the actual site, Bobby McClain is in the 4th. So the way we love to read it. Now, I will update the people on the Ron Johnson show on Tuesday because I will have had a game in. I will have the actual depth chart printed because we know we'll get our email Thursday, I think, because Wednesday they have to do the official, like, who's up, who's down. Or is it Tuesday now because it's a Saturday game? I don't know. Who cares? It's preseason. But by Thursday, we get the email with the printout. And then, Friday, they have to print everything out to be ready for the game Saturday morning. And so we will see it Saturday at some point because I'll be there early. So my goal, they said, can I be there by noon to shoot? So my goal is, because my wife has to get up early and leave to go get the kids from camp because they're at camp. They're away at camp all week. So we are kidless this week, which has been awesome so far. And then she'll get up at like 7 a.m. because she has to be there by 10 a.m. and it's a 3-hour drive. So I wish I could have went because I took her down there. I took them down there. I do wish I could go because the only thing is her having to carry both the kids' totes. Like they both have totes, they both have snack totes, and they both have like bedding. And so I was like, dang, I wish I could have went. And so the only way to go would be to go, and we can check them out early. I have thought about that. We could go at 6 a.m., check them out at 9, and then be back here by noon. But shoot, that wouldn't work. I'm still late. So yeah, I was like, we'd have to go like 5 a.m. and check them out at 8 or something to get back here by 11 for me to get dressed and then head down to the stadium. My kids probably would be pissed because one, they're going to be up all night Friday because that's the last day of camp. And especially our teenager, we do have a teenager now. And so I know they're going to be up all night. So I know she's not waking up sooner than 9:30. Like she's waking up at the last possible minute because I know like they know they don't have to be at the gates until 10 a.m. for their parents to come pick them up and check them out. And so I know she's going to be absolutely like, they're going to be exhausted. They're going to sleep on the way home. As soon as they get in the car, they're going to pass out. Because the teenagers don't have to go to bed until like 11 or something or 12. And then the little kids, my younger daughter, her group, they have to be bed by 9. But my guess is they have 10 little 9-year-olds in the room together. They're not going to bed on time. And so I know she's going to be exhausted. They're up all night playing. So it is going to be fun. But yeah, I'll be down there early. I'll get the card. I'll make sure I bring the card back for the show so we can talk about the depth chart. I'm going to be taking notes throughout the game. Not a ton. Before we get over to Geoff Schwartz, he's going to be joining us in the Hang Around Johnson segment shortly. The one thing I do want to say, Sam, is when you look at the game, because you did bring that up, you said quarterbacks. The one thing I didn't say what I want to see. I really do want to see this cornerback depth. I want to see how they do it. I know probably Byron Murphy might not play, but we'll see. But like I do want to see like some of the defensive guys, where they're lining up, who's in there, who's going to be there. And then Jalen Nailor. I want to see what show Jalen Nailor. Can he solidify himself as wide receiver 3? Because I think you brought that up too. I do want to see that as well. Can Jalen Nailor come out there and put on an absolute show and represent the Big Ten at his best? I am excited to see what Jalen Nailor does because I think he can be a really good piece to this puzzle for this team to go alongside with Addison. And we know Addison, like we saw reports last night on NBC. Again, this is just reports that, Jordan Addison was asleep at the wheel when he was found. So nobody knows what's going on there. But possible suspension of 3 games. So that could be 3 games of Jalen Nailor just getting absolutely busy. And so I think this is going to be, and maybe that's what KOC wants to see. I need to find a receiver just in case you can't go 1, 2, and 3. I got to have a guy. Because if the NFL doesn't come up with something before the season starts, which sucks, because then it could come down in any point in the season. And you might be on a roll, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, you're going to have Jordan Addison out for games 5, 6, and 7. It's like, just get out the way early to when everybody's early, and you can kind of get started early with Jalen Nailor. And hopefully, that's what we're going to see. Brandon Powell, Jalen Nailor, and that's what our goal is. But coming up next, we got Geoff Schwartz joining us on the Hang Around Johnson show, Hang Around Johnson segment. But we had a word from our sponsors. But we'll be back because we got to ask Geoff about the NFC North. He played for the Lions, but we'll do all that after a word from our sponsors.
We're brought to you today by FanDuel. The Olympics are going on right now. Major League Baseball is going on right now. Like Ron said, bet against the White Sox every day and make a fortune. Is that the play? Well, right now at FanDuel, even though there's no NBA, there's no NHL, there's no NFL yet, preseason's on the way, you can still get a booster or bonus daily at FanDuel. All customers, not just new customers, all customers, a daily boost or bonus. So there's something for everyone every day. all summer long. Head to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer at FanDuel. It's an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Well, as promised, I got Geoff Schwartz joining us in the Hanging with Ron Johnson segment. There's a reason why. So I'm a guy that I don't believe in just reaching out to people for no reason. Anthony Herron, you guys know the Anthony Herron story. He's been on the show a couple of times, played at Iowa. We absolutely destroyed Iowa when I played. To this day, he thinks a lot of my touchdowns were fake because either my toe was out of bounds or something, but he thought they were fluky, whatever. They used instant replay one time before it existed. Who cares? But Geoff Schwartz and Anthony Herron recently sat down with PJ Fleck. I saw some mention that with one of our partners, of course, Sirius XM. And Geoff played for the Lions. He played for the Giants. He played for the Chiefs. He played for the Vikings and the Panthers. And Vikings fans, you guys know, Vikings, Panthers, and the Giants. We know we have some ties in there, but of course, the Lions. I mean, come on now. That's right in our backyard. And Geoff, man, appreciate you joining me, man. First, I want to say, I started following you a while back. You were one of the funny follows.
Thank you.
On Twitter, because you get into it with people a lot about football, because people make comments and then you'll tweet something out and then somebody calls you something and then you go back at them. Like what is it about Twitter that sometimes, because I see you do it. I see a lot of guys do it. I mean, honestly, it's Shannon Sharp and we went back and forth and somebody else got involved and Shannon, because my big moment, Shannon, I played for the Ravens. Shannon played for the Ravens. My big moment, and I was a Kirk Cousins apologizer. He was a Vikings guy. I know that. And it had nothing to do with me working for the Vikings. I really thought Kirk Cousins was a good quarterback. And of course, now the Falcons do too. But I said, who can you name 10 quarterbacks better than Kirk Cousins? And Shannon Sharp came over the top and named like 12. And so then that blew up. But then people started going at Shannon and he started going off about it. Cause like Kirk had followers. When Kirk took his shirt off and put the chains on, he had followers. But what makes you want to kind of go at people sometimes on Twitter that have no idea about football?
Yeah. Well, I've stopped a little bit because I've realized that it's not good for your health, your mental health, but also that you don't change anyone's mind. Right now, if you're having a healthy debate with someone, that's fine about sports. But the people that are just disingenuous about it and don't actually want to learn anything, I don't have time for. But the one thing I say, Ron, is this: the thing I don't put up with is people telling me about offensive line play. You do not know. I know. I am the expert. You are not. So if I say something that is happening based off a video clip, I am correct and you're not. So there's no suggestion about like, what if it was this? It wasn't that. It's what I said it was. And that's the end of the story. Like, there's no debate. I'm trying to teach you about football. I'm not debating with you whether what happened on the play or not. I'm correct and you're not. So that's sort of where I draw the line with that stuff. It's like, I will have a healthy debate about anything. If you want to listen to, top 10 quarterbacks, great. But if it's an offensive line thing, like there's no debate. You do not know. I know the answer, and I'm going to tell you what I see on the film. And so, and there's some other stuff, every now and then I like to poke fun at things, but a lot of it right now seems to be, somehow my algorithm is mostly about Oregon. So a lot of Oregon stuff recently, college football, which I obviously cover nationally. And so, some of that stuff I feel like I defend my school, but otherwise a lot of it's just fun,
And so when you look at that, though, when you look at the scope of, like you said, offensive line, you see it. When you see the scope of today's offensive line and guys like Christian Darrisaw, Worth just got paid as well with the Buccaneers. A lot of people are questioning, like, how do you quantify paying these guys that much money? Like what? Because I know the whole like Michael Orr story, and we know that the Joe Theismann thing, and what's her name? The actress, and she told the whole story of the Blind Side and so on and so forth. But we know there's more to the story of that. What makes Christian Darrisaw so valuable to the Minnesota Vikings?
Well, I think it depends on sort of your offense at times, but what it does is if you have a left tackle like him and anyone like this, right? Trent Williams, right? And, you would cover the Lions. I saw a clip of Taylor Decker at practice against Kayvon Thibodeau, the Giants. I mean, you have these guys. You mentioned Tristan Wirfs now playing left tackle. When you have a guy like that who doesn't need help, he's by himself, then the rest of the four guys can work together, and you can add a fifth guy, right? A tight end, a running back, and it just makes your offense, it makes one part of it just set it and forget it. Almost like if you have a lockdown corner, right? Yeah. If you just have a lockdown corner, that guy's on that guy, We don't worry about him. The other 10 guys on defense can focus on the other 10 players on offense. And so the ability to do that in offense is so helpful. Now, obviously, being able to run the ball behind an offensive lineman is very valuable, but in pass protection, which is what we get paid the most for, that is where it helps the team the most. Okay, you're set, especially with a young quarterback. Look, Darnold might play a couple of games. I don't know. But, having a blindside protector like that for McCarthy, where, look, man, we're set on this side, buddy. Worry about everything else. The confidence that gives a young quarterback is not measurable. So that's really what it is when you have guys like that, then you can focus the rest of your resources around trying to figure out, the other players and kind of get them in the right spot.
And I played with Jonathan Ogden. He's one of the best tackles to ever play the game. And so I do remember, because I didn't move to tight end until I went to the Bears. I wish I had done it with the Ravens, but when I got to the Bears, they moved me to tight end. But played receiver. And so I remember like some of the pass protection stuff with Todd Heap being asked to go to the backfield and then motion out, because they're like, look, we don't need you to help out Jonathan. We're going to add you as either you're going to pick up and scan these linebackers that they're coming, or you're going to release into the flat, and now you become an extra pass receiver. And so I'm guessing you're saying that's what it sounds like with Christian Darrisaw, where the Vikings are going to have more to be able to do on that left side to say, hey, look, you just worry about these 5 because we know he's taking care of that guy.
Yes, and also I'm glad you mentioned the route stuff, because people always say, why don't you chip, right? Why don't you have that running back chip or tight end chip? Well, that's one less guy in the route concept, right? And a lot of and this, like a lot of routes require layers and levels to them, and you need 3 guys to do it. You need to be able to have 3 guys, especially into the wide side of the field. You need 3 guys out there to get the proper spacing and find holes in a zone. And if you have one less guy to do that because you're helping the offensive lineman, that's one less guy in a pass concept. And so you ideally would like to get as many guys out as you can, 4 guys or 5 guys. Now, of course, there are sometimes it's a 2-man route, play action type of thing like that. But when you don't have to help out a certain tackle, which Brian O'Neill's the same way, you don't have to help him either. You get more guys out in the pass concept. Jonathan Ogden, when I was in Carolina my last year, John Matsko was our offensive line coach, and he was offensive line coach in Baltimore for a little bit, I think, with J.O. And he made a comment like, they had a young guy, one of the first practices, the left guard helped Ogden, and he pulled him off. He said, buddy, we don't do that here. You do not go over there. You go right every time. You don't help that. He gets paid to block by himself. Don't help him over there. So it's a funny story, because that's really what it is, right? When you have those guys, they just don't get help. It's why they're paid that much.
Right. Yeah. And I know when I went, because like, again, I play receiver my whole life. And so I never cared about, not going to lie, I never cared what you guys did. The only thing I needed to know, if the guy to my side comes off, I'm hot. That's it. Other than that, I didn't care.
Feelings mutual. Don't worry.
But when I went to tight end, Lovie Smith, I came into camp, I was 235, and Lovie was like, can you gain 10 pounds? And I was like, probably. And so I gained 10. He moved me to tight end. And I wish I had taken more time as a receiver back in the day to learn that, because the protection side of it actually helped me as a tight end running routes, because I was mainly, I still was a smaller tight end. I was 6'3", 245, 247-ish. So, but I was in the slot a lot, but it still helped me to understand, like you're saying, do I need to come down and maybe give a shoulder to a guy? Why not to give a shoulder to a guy? Because I was told, like, if you shoulder this guy, you're actually knocking him off the path that the tackle was going to take care of him. And now you might push him inside to where he has a free run at the quarterback. So like learning all that stuff was like very key for me. And then I ended up coaching with Tony Dungy for a little bit. So that made it even easier to understand the mic and, why they, I had no idea why they identified the mic. The only thing I knew is if they identify the mic on the second level, the third or second guy to his right, if I'm on that side, if that guy comes, they can't get him. So that's all I knew. I was like, okay, I'm watching for this guy. And so when you think about that and you think about the way the game is played, there are guys like Jonathan Ogden, Trent Williams with the 49ers. You got Christian Darrisaw now. But I've heard this from the scouts because I played with one of the scouts for the Vikings. He was my teammate. Now he's a scout for the Vikings. And they said the one thing about Christian Darrisaw is he can get, I might say it wrong, but his feet might come like from under him and he has to re-anchor. How hard is it to re-anchor when you have a 290 or 280 pound guy still trying to push you back?
Well, it's about leverage, right? So, the ability to lower your hips. So if you get in a position where you're too high, can you lower your hips quickly? And look, the thing about some of these top tackles is some of the stuff they do is not like teach tape.
Right.
You wouldn't look at them and go, like J.O., for example, like he's 6'9", 375. It's like no one's Jonathan Ogden. You can't teach Joe Thomas.
Correct.
Just gone to the Hall of Fame. You can't teach Joe Thomas to anyone else. You can't teach Trent Williams. His footwork sometimes is atrocious, but he is so strong and big and powerful, and he can recover well. And so some of these guys, to your point about Darrisaw, like if he gets too high, you wouldn't teach anyone sometimes some of the technique, but he's so strong and athletic to make up for that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not accusing him of using bad technique, by the way, but there are times when those elite players do things other guys can't do. Like I could not get to a point often where I was out of position. I couldn't recover fast enough. I wasn't good enough. I had to always sort of stay in the right position, where other guys who are very athletic and very strong are able to do things that I couldn't do, that you couldn't do as a tight end. Like those guys are special. And so that, Darrisaw having those natural abilities and obviously training them and using them to his best ability allows him to do things other guys just can't do.
And you grew up with a brother that played tackle, Mitchell. And I've seen that too. I've seen that battle every once in a while, because I think you would make comments about Mitchell and then people would say other stuff, and then you guys would go back and forth about offensive tackle play and whatever. But how was that growing up with a brother? Because I watched receiver with Amon St. Brown and his brother and their dad. How was that growing up with your brother?
It was great. We were, best of friends. Like it was great. We always were, biggest cheerleaders. I'm so happy for the success he had in his career. He's a 4-time All-Pro, won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs in 2019. And so, it was great growing up as kids. We always had someone to play with, always had someone to do sports with. And then, being able to bounce stuff off each other while playing was very special, and really enjoyed those times we were in the NFL together.
Because I was going to say, having a brother that plays tackle, and you were primarily a guard, right?
I played tackle early and then went to guard.
Okay. But, having a brother, did that help too? Like to be able to call him and say, hey, this just happened. What do you think? Or, I'm playing this team.
Well, no, we didn't really do that because
Okay.
we played different styles of offensive line in different positions. But it was more like just, emotional support in bad times rather than like good times. I mean, good times, it's easy, right? It's the bad times, right? I mean, I know that, there were games that he felt he didn't play, and we were very different players. I mean, if I had 60 plays in a game and had 2 minuses, I would be like standing on a roof cheering. Like it'd be like, great, good day today, Schwartz. If my brother had 2 errors, it would ruin his night. Like it's just different styles of play, different things that we thought were good, but for me, a lot of times it was just Mitch would be, after a bad game, he'd be down on himself. And again, he had very few bad games. I just text him stuff like, hey man, did your check clear this week? Just relax, man. Like you're not going to be cut, buddy. It's going to be okay. Stuff like that. And it's not always about the money, of course, but just like, dude, whew. So I think being able to do that for each other in moments that weren't as good, but good times are always fun, man. What am I going to tell him? I didn't win a Super Bowl. What am I going to tell him after a Super Bowl win? Right. So it's more about, we've all had the low moments, helping each other get through those moments.
And when you look at, the way the football, and I'm transitioning now a little bit into college football, you played at Oregon. When you see the scope of college football right now, 1, NIL, 2, money. Like the Big Ten has changed now. I know you saw PJ Fleck, you saw Deshaun Foster, which I love the fact that he wore the shirt to just say, just so you know, we're in LA, because that was one of the most awkward press conferences.
I don't think I've heard him say this. Did he know there was supposed to be an opening statement? So I feel like that was the biggest problem.
I don't think he was prepared. I think he thought he was going to walk out and then it'll just be a Q&A. And so when he came out, it was kind of like, well, hey, I'm Deshaun Foster. Played at UCLA, running back, XYZ. I'm like, dude, they Google, because it was different. Like you used to have to say that kind of stuff. Now the internet gives you everything you need as a media person about this guy. They all have a sheet, but I don't think he knew because PJ Fleck is in year 8. So he comes out, he's prepared, he's rolled the boat, Sky Umag, go Gophers. Like he has it all ready to go. I just don't think Deshaun was prepared, but they turned it into I'm pretty sure they're going to sell those shirts. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think he was prepared. Like it was super weird. And then he was like,
great with us on the radio. I mean,
Deshaun, like I said, Deshaun's always been great. So he and I got drafted in 2002. We both were in the Hey Rookie in the NFL premiere thing with the top 32 picks or top 32 offensive guys. And Julius Peppers was there. And he was great then. Like I always knew from the start because he took the camera in one of the episodes and he like started running the camera. It was horrible, some of it, because he was forgetting he was live and he was dropping the camera. And so they actually ended up putting that on the show because it was funny because he walked through like his 100 or his 90-something yard touchdown at the Rose Bowl Stadium or something against USC. But yeah, like he's always been good. So I think honestly, I just think they didn't prepare him for it. I don't think he knew what he was supposed to do. First year's head coach, never sat in any of these things. But when you look at that scope changing now with the travel, or Oregon is going to have to travel, UCLA has to come to Minnesota. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm actually, it's not the travel that's a concern. I think it's the kickoff times, right? You come from west to east and play that early kickoff, that 12 p.m. Eastern kickoff. That's 9 a.m. back home, right? Like that's an early kick. And vice versa. There's a game, Rutgers goes to USC this year, I think on a Friday night. It's 11 p.m. Eastern kickoff. It's late for an East Coast kick, right? So to me, it's kickoff. It's not travel, dude. Everyone travels first class. They get the nice hotels, and now, and you know this because you played in a time sort of like I did where. And I saw some of the transition of this at the end of my career where, there was no talk when we played about nutrition and sleep habits.
Correct. Nope.
You ate whatever the hell you wanted. I joke all the time about the night before game. Our snack was Sundays, pizza, cheeseburgers, wings. Yep. It was in 2014 with the Giants. They decided they wanted to go healthy, Ron, and they went with grilled wings for the first preseason game. There was a revolt. In the snack room. The next week, our fried wings came back. Like we would eat so bad before games, night before 9 o'clock at night, having a Sunday. Oh yeah, kick off in 14 hours. Like so, these guys are so much better with sleep now, preparation, and recovery as well, right? Prehab, post-hab. Like I'm not worried about the flight time. It's more about the time of kickoff. The one thing that I will sort of debunk for a second. A lot of people have said that, the problem is going to be the weather. Okay. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a very rare occurrence when the weather will be an issue because look, UCLA and USC for the most part always struggle in November on the road in Utah, Colorado. That's no different than going to Minnesota. Right. Right. And also too, for the most part, there's always and never, not words we use in football, but for the most part, a lot of the bad weather we see in the NFL especially is December and January. I don't know if you guys know this. The college football season ends in October and Thanksgiving, right? Like there's not going to be a lot of times where you're going to Minnesota, Iowa. And by the way, UCLA and USC play at the end of the season anyway. So like and USC obviously, they host Notre Dame every other year, final game of the year. Like they're not going to be playing a lot of games Thanksgiving weekend on the East Coast again, in bad weather. So the weather to me is not a problem. Yeah, it might be cold every now and again in Iowa in November, at Minnesota in November, but it's not going to be a thing that happens every season. So to me, it's about kickoff times and just new routines, right? Going somewhere for the first time, understanding what the vibe is at Minnesota versus the vibe at Rutgers versus the vibe at Ohio State versus Michigan. But to me, it's about kickoff times more than anything else.
Right. Yeah, no, and I say Northwestern, Rutgers, you better bring your own juice because the vibe is terrible there. Like Northwestern is literally, it's like finals week every time we went there. Half the students didn't show up. They would show up late. Like it's definitely not like Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Oh yeah, it's going to be a vibe. Minnesota, even like they fill it up in Minnesota. Iowa, of course. Wisconsin is crazy with the jump around. But yeah, some of those like that Rutgers and that like Maryland's fine, but that Rutgers and that Northwestern, it's a eerie, weird feeling there. Like Piscataway, New Jersey is just like, what are y'all doing here? And then Northwestern is just it's a smart book smart school. Like they don't come out for games until it's a big time night game or something.
And now this year, because of the stadium situation, They barely have a stadium.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, so it's gonna be very interesting to see how that goes. Yeah, because I think that was Illinois. When we played Illinois, they had to play at the Bears stadium a couple times, and then the Bears actually played at Illinois stadium when they were getting their stuff redone. So it's been some weird transitions within the big, and same with the Vikings. The Vikings played at the Gopher Stadium when they were getting the U.S. Bank rebuilt. But yeah, no, the last one before we get out of here is Ron Johnson, Geoff Schwartz on the Ron Johnson Show. Just want to ask you, NFC North, you got the Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings. I know it's early, but just off the top of your head, how do you think that's going to play out with like 1 and 2?
So I do have Vikings to make the playoffs wager plus 300.
Okay.
I think the team is very talented. It's a matter of, I think, quarterback, right? If they can sort of, it sounds like Darnold might start the season at quarterback, but
Correct.
We know that it doesn't last. That doesn't last long, right? McCarthy will be in there at some point. And what he did at Michigan was like, this is in the nicest way to say, like, he didn't screw it up.
Correct.
That's not really what I want from my NFL quarterback, to be honest. I want a little aggressiveness, right? Like, you need to have interceptions are not the worst thing in the world if they're done in the right appropriate time, right? Like, it's okay to be aggressive. But in year one, with the team that the Vikings have and the talent around them, I think it's not the worst thing to just like, throw the ball at Jefferson, hand the ball. Like, it's not a bad idea to do that.
Correct.
The Bears, there's too much hype, just too much. I think Caleb Williams, by the way, is going to be outstanding in the NFL. I love Caleb Williams. I watched him for 2 years and I watched every snap for 2 years. You have to throw out last year was a funky year in Los Angeles for him. Like, he's incredible. He's going to be good, but too much hype on the Bears. It's just too much, man. And the Lions, I think, are going to be solid again. And the Packers are going to be good. So I think the Vikings slot in there somewhere. Picking a sort of an order, I would probably lean. Oh man, I'd probably the Packers win the division. I think.
Oh wow!
It's
okay.
It's something about the Lions that I don't know, man. It might be the Goff thing. It's not. Goff played really well last year. I don't know.
I'm born and raised in Detroit, so I grew up with the Barry Sanders bad eras of like just Barry was good. They went to the playoffs one time. So yeah, it's very because I do pick against the Lions pretty much a lot, but now I haven't. The last year, I guess I haven't, and so all my friends back home always give me crap for that.
And I love what they've done too with building up the offensive defensive lines. But are they going to be? The problem is defensively, right? Are they going to be much better on defense this year?
I mean, they drafted Terrion Arnold, so we'll see what that looks like.
Sure, he just got. I saw he got look as a practice, but Malik Neighbors looks incredible. He's tearing up the Lions defense right now at practice this week. It's a practice, but still. So I don't. I don't know why I feel the way with the Lions. But
it's the Lions. That's why everybody.
Well, no. So here's the last thing I'll end with this. So I was there for a very short time in 2016, just in training camp, and.
Yep.
I came from the Giants, and we didn't win a Super Bowl in New York. We didn't make the playoffs for 2 years. But you could, when you walk in that building, there's 4 Super Bowls right in the front of that building, in the lobby, 4 Lombardis. And from top to bottom, you can feel Super Bowl, right? Like, you can feel the winning in the organization, the expectations. Detroit, you could feel the losing when you were there. Okay, Ron?
Yeah.
And what I give Dan Campbell credit for, and this is a really hard thing to do, is break that mentality, right? He broke the losing. Like, now they're expected to win. And not like they were with Stafford. Like, this is a different type of Lions team. It's a physical in the trenches, right? Offensive line, Hutchinson. I think they added DJ Reader as well, right? Like, they drafted Onwuzurike a couple years ago. Like they got dudes. And I give Dan Campbell so much credit for that, man. Like, to break that curse of just not winning, of that losing identity. That's hard to do, man. I give him a ton of credit for that because he did a great job.
Yeah, no, and I will say that, like, he has changed the mentality of Detroit people. Everybody's trying to go to games now. They're selling out games.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, like, watching the 49ers Lions game, because again, I'm a kid. I grew up in Detroit, born and raised, went to Martin Luther King High School right in downtown Detroit. So watching the 49ers game, at one point, I'm like, you know what? The Lions are actually going to the Super Bowl. This is going to happen. And then the celebration, and then the waving goodbye. And I was like, yep, they just did it. It's the curse. It's coming. And literally every play that could have happened. And Dan Campbell kicking the field goal going for it instead of kicking the field goal to get the extra little cushion, got him. And it's like, and again, he lived by that. But that's what the Lions bring to you is bad memories.
I feel like you feel the same way I do about this, and most players do. Is I'd much rather have a coach be aggressive than not.
Yeah,
and even it gets to a point where it's like even landing last year for the Ducks, like those 3 plays against Washington that maybe one of them you kick a field goal when Oregon wins that game. But I don't know, I'd kind of rather try to win that game being aggressive. So you live and die by those, and I think Campbell. I just like what they've done. I think it's really impressive. Part of it is the golf thing. Like I know he played well last year, but most often the best quarterback in the division wins the division. And I think Jordan Love showed last season, and I think through the end of this year that he will be the best quarterback as of now. I think Caleb Williams will get there at some point, but that's why I think the Packers for me are so high, because I think we'll end this season saying Jordan Love's the best quarterback for now in the division. I think Caleb Williams will get there one day. And so that's why I go with the Packers right now.
And so you got Packers, Lions. And so do you have Bears over Vikings or Vikings over Bears?
I would probably put Vikings and then Bears.
Okay. That's what a lot of people are going. I see a lot of Lions, though. Lions had the early lead in the clubhouse. But Geoff Schwartz is picking the Packers. Appreciate that. It's Ron Johnson, Geoff Schwartz. Coming up next, we got the Daily 3. It's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Me and Sam are going to finish the show out. Well, thanks to Geoff Schwartz for joining me on the Hey Ron Johnson segment. If you want to catch more of the PJ Fleck interview he did, it is on Sirius XM Radio. We know Sirius XM, the app as well. Just download the SXM app. You can search the Big Ten Network. You can search PJ Fleck. I'm pretty sure a lot of that stuff is going to pop up on there on the shows he was on. But Geoff Schwartz with Anthony Herron. And again, just search XXM. You can download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app. And now it's time for the Daily 3. That's 3 questions. It's been about a minute each today. Take it away, Sam.
Ron, Olympics talk. This was the biggest Olympic story of the weekend. Noah Lyles in a photo finish won the 100 meters, one of the most thrilling races you'll ever see. The announcer got it wrong in the moment. He called it for Jamaica. They showed the photo, and the lean for Lyles won gold for the U.S. What'd you make of it?
Well, I'm glad it happened for him because that dude's been talking a lot of junk. He's been talking about, okay, I'm gonna do this again because a dude looked at him in the 100 in June. He tweeted like, okay, I'll be back. He did that to that guy. Then he's like, I'm not worried about this XYZ. But he's a finisher and he finished the race. Good for US. They got the 100-meter gold for the first time. I didn't realize it'd been 20 years. I forgot how dominant it was for a while with other countries, and now the U.S. has it back 20 years later. I think it was Carl Lewis maybe even or somebody. I forgot who it was.
Justin Gatlin,
2004. Guy. Yep, Justin Gatlin won in 2004. Carl Lewis was way back. That was like 88. But yeah, no, it was good for that. I don't know. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I eat that stuff up. I love good moments like that. The reaction with his mom and the hug there, and just the photo, looking at the photo and the slow motion as they cross the line. Can you imagine being like the 5th place guy? You lost by 0.0 something seconds and you're 5th and forgotten about. That's just the margins are insane in track and field. Yeah, next, another Team USA question. USA basketball taking on Brazil in the quarterfinals today. They are favored on FanDuel by 26.5. Will the U.S. get it done, Ron? Will they cover? And bonus question, how many will Anthony Edwards score?
They'll win by 24. They won't cover. And then they will also – Anthony Edwards will score 17. I'll say Anthony Edwards with a modest 17. They win by 24. I just feel like if they're going to have a lead at the end, it kind of gets kind of goofy. And the other countries are still playing super hard because they don't want to get embarrassed on the Olympic stage. So I think 24 and then Anthony Edwards 17. I don't know. What do you at?
Yeah, I feel like teams have had a hard time covering those big spreads. USA women as well haven't exactly blown people out. So I'm also gonna go like a 19-point win. Edwards gets 15 points, and they they just survive in advance. It's not going to be crazy or anything.
And that's at 2:30 today, by the way, people.
And we got women's soccer right before that in the semifinals against Germany. So a good day of the Olympics, plus a lot of good track and field. Lewis Seen has been out at training camp with an injury, not good for a former first-round pick. Could we be watching his final days as a Viking, Ron?
I think so. When you look at Bobby McClain, you look at Fabian Moreau, you look at Shaq Griffin, all these new DBs they've bought into the building. I think all signs point towards that. We do know because then again, with these guys in the building, one or two of these guys are going to probably have another chance to be with the Vikings again. But then you still have Mekhi Blackman coming back. So unfortunately, I just think Lewis Seen is going to be one of the odd numbers out unless he absolutely comes back and murders special teams. But it's tough to make a team when you're injured. And, this is the second one was a really major, and now this is another, time to be out. So I think the Vikings, all signs are pointing towards his body's just not holding up the way he hoped it would. And it sucks because he's a really good kid.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough when a first round pick doesn't work out, but you do have to cut your losses at some point if he's not one of the best 53. And that could be the case here.
Well, make sure you guys check out Locked On Sports 24/7 on our YouTube live stream for your favorite Minnesota sports shows around the clock. It's Vikings, Wild, Wolves, Twins, Gophers, Lynx, and of course the Olympics right now at all hours of the day. I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. That was Geoff Schwartz joining us in the Hanging with Ron Johnson segment. We're going to thank you guys. And hey, have a great week. Football's back, baby.